Hello, my name's Hazel and I am the owner and founder of Haunted Happenings, the ghost hunting company based in Nottingham.
Neil Packer, I'm the owner of the Haunted Antiques Paranormal Research Centre in Hinckley.
So I'm Leslie and I own the Four Crosses along with my husband, and this is Bumble who lives here, and she's the real boss of the place.
Mark Webb, we're at the Nunnery in Malvern, Worcestershire.
Hello there, my name's Simon Entwistle. I'm a professional tour guide and historian, and I cover a wide variety of guided tours in the north of England, in Lancashire, Cumbria and Yorkshire.
Haunted Happenings is coming up for its 18th birthday. I can't believe I've been doing this for 18 years, but yeah, we're about to go into our 18th year in April of this year. The reason that I began Haunted Happenings was very strange actually. So I used to be a psychotherapist and I had my own practice in Long Eaton, and I was seeing a client and going to the fax machine, because in those days it was a fax machine and not an email or a phone, text or anything else, but I went to pick up some doctor's notes for a client that I was seeing. And a fax came through asking me if I'd like to, or not asking me personally, but saying anybody that wanted to do a ghost hunt at Elveston Castle, which is a very haunted castle in Derbyshire. I of course decided I'd go, not for the ghost, but because I wanted to get inside the castle and see what it was like. And whilst I was there with some friends, we actually saw something, and that's how I started my ghost hunting company.
I used to co-own a venue group, but I quickly decided that's not what I wanted to do, to be honest. So I wanted to do something different, so I looked into haunted objects, and I thought haunted antiques would be good objects to look into. My collection started in the carport at home, but my wife was having some strange occurrences, like somebody staying at the bottom of the bed. So I thought, yeah, it's time to get a building, and I looked all around Hinckley and I came up with this one. First item I ever bought was the World War II baby gas mask. That's come from the Antique Centre where we started.
So we bought the Four Crosses in December 2015, just a couple of weeks before Christmas, which was interesting. I used to have a listed building before, and I've always loved listed buildings, and I made an inquiry about this place probably a year before we actually bought it. And the sale fell through, so they contacted me, and so then I jumped in. It was still operating as a pub, badly, very dirty, terrible conditions, and then once our offer was accepted, then the pub closed, and that was that.
3 years? I think it's coming up a little over maybe 3 years, and obviously with Natalie running Spooktacular, it was just another venue to add to the George Jarvis school that we had, so the nunnery was available, so here we are.
I used to live up in the Lake District, a lovely part of Great Britain, and way back in 1982 my dad passed away and my mum came back to her roots, which is the Ribble Valley, and I came with her, and I was absolutely mesmerised by the area. It is actually quite beautiful, and I thought, someone needs to be starting some tours in the area to really sell the area, and that's exactly what I did do. And this took place way back in 1996, and here we are in the year 2024, and I'm still doing those tours, Vicky. But of course, you learn stories and you take them in, and any tour guide will tell you that they are storytellers.
The first ever location Haunted Happenings hosted was at the Creaky Cauldron in Stratford-upon-Avon, and I went in there because I knew the owner, and I remember being absolutely petrified. The second one actually was the Crooked House in Dudley, which is now being knocked down, but that was also a fantastic location. My first ever paranormal experience, I have to say, I can remember one as a child when I was playing outside in a field at the back of my house with water balloons, and we were throwing them at each other, and my parents were at work, and I was just about to throw the water balloon and saw somebody in my mum and dad's bedroom, thinking it was my mum. I waved and the person waved back. And then when I got home, there was nobody there, and my mother and father turned up from work at their normal time. And I still to this day do not know who I waved to in that bedroom, but somebody was actually there waving back at me. But my main, I think, paranormal experience that perpetuated me into the ghost hunting side of things is when I did go to Elveston Castle and saw things that I'll never be able to explain. So we saw lights coming out of the wall and dancing around us, and we, instead of asking any questions and being really professional about the whole thing, we decided to leg it. And it's probably one of the most biggest regrets I've ever had, because it was so real and so authentic, and yet we missed out because we were stupid. But that's what really got me into ghost hunting.
Me would it be the big mirror. Fortunately, we
Yeah.
had a camera in there at the time, so I was actually here when it was lifted up and thrown and smashed, and I thought it sounded like a bomb to me. It was that loud, but it was a really, really heavy mirror. So that's probably the biggest and best.
We've obviously, when we moved in, we didn't know what happened on a paranormal event, so we actually did one for our friends and family, which was brilliant. It was great fun, and it's really interesting when you know people who are friends and family, and suddenly you see this whole different side that you didn't know existed in people that you think you know really well. So we did an event where we had some mediums here, and we did the equipment side, and it was really interesting. Some of the experiences that the friends and family had. I tended to steer away from it because we live here. I don't really want to know. So to say I'm spooked out by it, excuse the pun, would yeah, but other people, loads of our friends and family have, and we've had some building work done, and they've experienced quite a few things here. Yeah, and we recently had some painting work done here in one of the attic rooms, and the guys wouldn't come until we had the lady who helps me in the house come and escort them around, which I found hilarious.
Sightings here at the nunnery, I've not had any as yet. I've had experiences. I've heard monks chanting in, got to get the names right, Manor House. I've heard monks chanting in there. I've heard the organ playing, and as you know, the organ's not here anymore. Bangs, knocks, and I don't think it was people breaking in. Couldn't find them if they were. So yeah, I mean, I slept here, as you know, when you've done events, I've stayed over and I've slept here for the rest of the night, and I've heard all sorts of noises in the building. Usually go to investigate and there's no one there, but sighting wise, I've not had anything in here yet.
When I set up Haunted Happenings, I set up the business with an aim to go on ghost hunts. That's all I really wanted to do. I'd worked for another company. I felt that I could, not perhaps do it better, but I could do it differently. And I could get people to have the same experience that I wanted, which was a really genuine experience. Not for ghosts to suddenly emerge and things to happen. I wanted it all to be real and authentic. And if nothing happened, at least we tried. And that's what I want the guests to get. For us to do our very, very best and to try and facilitate a great night for our guests. When I did it, it was difficult, and that was 18 years ago. To do it now, with the way that the industry works sometimes, the pricing, you know, what things cost, the business structure of running up in a company like mine, because everything is forward booked, so there's lots and lots of hoops to jump through. And I'd also advise people that would start up a business like mine to stop or not compare themselves to any other ghost hunting business, but to be really genuine about the business that they're going to be setting up, and concentrate fully on making that the very best business it can be. Funniest events that we've ever done is we decided to do a camping trip at Pendle, and I don't know if it's a sexist thing or not, but I just assumed that the guy that was with us would know how to barbecue. So we bought all the barbecue food and set everything up, and we were having a meal that evening, and the guests were going to be, you know, enjoying everything, and we're going to sing camp songs and tell ghost stories. And when it came down to it, the guy that I thought had barbecued had never lit a barbecue in his life. So neither had myself and Vicky, who was doing this with me. So we ran and accosted a farmer in his farmer's field and asked him to come back and see if he could light the barbecue for us, which sort of happened, but not to the time or length. Anyway, we started off at 7 o'clock and I think the food arrived at 11:30 that night, which the guests weren't too happy about, but it was a really good weekend anyway. So Haunted Happenings ghost hunt at hundreds of different locations, and some of them are massive. They're mansions, castles, haunted houses, all sorts of places that, you know, people really know as being haunted. But for me, the most haunted, the most active, and probably one of the best locations is the Haunted Antiques Paranormal Research Centre in Hinckley in Leicestershire. This location is second to none, and I can almost guarantee that if you ghost hunt here or you spend a night there, you're going to see something or feel something. The whole place lends itself to everything that every ingredient that you can imagine for a ghost hunt. You're petrified, you're shocked, things happen that you really can't explain. They have an abundance of haunted artefacts that are a wow factor even if you're not ghost hunting. But when you're in a room with them in the pitch black and you know the history, some of the history behind them, that sends your mind going. But then when things happen, honestly, it's the most terrifying experience, but the adrenaline keeps you going all night there. It's amazing. Definitely worth a visit. In the past, Haunted Happenings have done lots of European trips, European tours. Sadly, when COVID hit, this seemed to stop things a little bit and the momentum was stopped. And then things happened within the business that made it sort of put its brakes on. Cost of living, exchange rates, so many things, wars, there's lots of things. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it isn't. I mean, we did Transylvania, which we'd love to go back to, but where it is right now, I'm not sure that it's such a great idea, but it's definitely something we'll be doing in the future. We're definitely looking at France and Ireland again, but Ireland has turned out to be double the cost of what it was when we originally did it. France, there's some fantastic locations in France that we'd like to get into. So definitely something on the cards, and we really want to go back to Transylvania. But all I can say is that there's lots of exciting things happening with Haunted Happenings, and I think the next decade it will continue to grow, but grow in a completely different direction, but retaining its same authentic and genuine background of the business, which is what it's always set out to be.
There's 3 jars of soil. The first one is from a house in America. Sharon Tate, famous actress, was murdered by the Charles Manson gang. The soil actually came from the cellar of her house where she was murdered. The next one was supposedly from the grave of Jack the Ripper. Obviously no one really knows who Jack the Ripper was, but the police, the most common theory of Jack the Ripper was a Polish immigrant. And this soil is from his grave. So we do have teams that pick up the name Jack and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And the final jar of soil is from 25 Cromwell Street. Very controversial, that one. It caused me a lot of hassle when we first had it because people said I'm wrong to have it. So we don't.
Why would they think it was wrong?
Because it's so recent. Before we started doing the demon connections, I didn't believe in demons. But demon connections come out of COVID, the lockdown. But I firmly believe in demons now. They're certainly not evil like this church and Hollywood portrays them. They're just ancient beings. And these demons were cast out. They sort of lost the battle. But they want to help us. And I firmly believe every demon that we've communicated with has helped us more than any normal human spirit has done. The reason I set GPN up was because for a small team, the chances of someone finding your videos is pretty remote because there's millions go on YouTube every day. So I thought, okay, I'll do it myself. So I researched how to do it and it's up and running last June. So it's really good, and the good thing is I am in full control of it. It's for anybody, if it's just a couple of guys go out at weekends to abandoned buildings, nothing happens, but they can still put it on because that's what paranormal
It's about
investigation is. Sometimes you get absolutely nothing. So it's all good, and it's going to keep growing. It's on Roku TV, and it's on all mobile devices as well now. So that's made a big difference. You can watch it anywhere you want, anywhere in the world.
That's
which is
brilliant.
good, and it's subscription free, so you don't pay. There's no adverts in the main body of the content. You know, there might be an advert before it starts, but there'll be no adverts halfway through. Or you watch a video on YouTube, a minute in, there's an advert.
Yeah.
Another 5 minutes, another advert, unless you pay. Yes, we do teenage events. Again, that caused me a lot of hassle when I first announced them. People saying I'm wrong, they should be 18. To me, though, some 14-year-olds are more grown up than some 30-year-olds. Plus, they'll watch the films anyway. They'll watch the Conjuring films. They might think, well, that's the way it is, and that ain't the way it is. You know, it certainly isn't. And I just think if they try and listen to us, so I'm not saying we know everything, because we don't, but if they listen to what we've got to say, and then they take it away and think, yeah, that's good, they're going to learn the proper way. So I just think it's vitally important to teach the youngsters. Plus, we're all getting old, aren't we? We need to educate them, I think, and not the TV paranormal shows aren't educating them, because I think they're going the wrong way as well. Okay, the Parameet started, originally Parameet started at the centre. We used to open to small teams the first Saturday of every month to come and meet each other, because there's lots of small teams who can't afford to go into the big locations because they're all going up in price. So I thought, get to meet other small teams. If you get to be friendly, you can go out together. That's how they can afford to go to bigger locations. But a couple of years ago, we decided to make it a bit bigger, so we did a full weekend at Bosworth Hall. That was the first one. Then last year, we did a full weekend at Rugby, Browns-Over Hall in Rugby. That's when you guys, Haunted Happenings guys, did the ghost hunts. Yeah. But then during last year's, I had this silly idea of doing 3 this year. So we're doing 3 this year. One in April, the Parameet South. Parameet Midlands is in June, and Parameet North is in October. So, but Parameet Midlands is also special because we're going to have the GPN Awards. Well, the centre itself will just keep going as it is. We're not looking to expand at all because we've got the whole building now anyway. It's just the shows that we're going to do for GPN that's going to be coming more. You know, Jane and I have got 3 lined up for the spring already. One that we've been planning for years. We are going to do a series on the black box. So Jane will be astral projecting all over the universe. So that's exciting. And we're also going to be looking at Cannock Chase, not far from us. It's supposed to be very paranormal, active with UFOs and ghosts and black-eyed children, all sorts. So we're looking forward to doing that. So we'll be setting that up in June. 3 different shows coming up that we're going to be producing. So they're all very exciting.
Were you aware of any of the history of the building or anything prior?
Only in respect of the fact that it was listed. It's grade 2 listed. I was aware of the year it was built. I wasn't necessarily aware of the paranormal because it's not an area that I've ever been involved with or was aware of really. So I was aware of some of the history in terms of when it was built and which areas were built at what time, but that was about it. Well, we've been really happy with the paranormal nights and we like the fact that people like doing those, so we're definitely going to try and continue those, but we do need to get the revenues up. The building needs a lot more investment. We've already invested a huge amount into it, but there's some really more essential works that need doing. So we're looking at various different ways of getting more revenues in to put directly back into the building. We are looking to do more Airbnb during the week. We already have people who do stay here and work away from home, but then this year the plan is to do the front out and do the function rooms so that we can have more kind of events or maybe do a shop type of thing. So we haven't got any firm plans. It depends what the heritage say, it depends what planning we can do. But this year, 2024, is the year that we're actually trying to build something and get more of a following. And do merchandise. We're looking at doing merchandise this year, which go directly back into the building, the funds, and hopefully then take people on a story so that they know the building. All the news coverage recently about the Crooked Bridge, the Crooked House. I'm hoping that people will really understand that these buildings need money spending on them and it doesn't come out of fresh air, and then maybe build a story up so that people get involved with the actual renovation and know where the money's going back in to the building, which it does. All of the funds from the Paranormal Nights, all of the funds that we get coming from here go directly back into the building. Unfortunately, people can't really see where the money's going, but believe me, it goes directly back into the building, so it's still here for another 500 years.
On events in here, I don't tend to do the events, but I do get told about it. And yeah, we have had people that have wanted to leave early. Things have happened. I don't know what they've had, because a lot of the time people don't want to tell you that. They just sort of, oh, we need to go. I think people are drawn to the chapel here, just because the stained glass and it's unique. I think this is pretty much the only nunnery or convent in the UK that you can actually come into. So we've got that unique selling point here, but I do think it's the chapel because of the stained glass, the bits that's not broken. So the nunnery is, they're really struggling to get planning permission. The idea is it's going to be converted into flats. Struggling because it's all listed and you've got a chapel attached. They won't let you alter that chapel. There's nothing you can do. So for the foreseeable future, at least the next 3 years, it's going to be a ghost hunting venue. Or movies. We've had movies filmed in here, or parts of movies. We've had music videos filmed in here. And some of the other venues we've got a massive movie being filmed. The George Jarvis School has been booked out for the whole of May for a movie. So we've got the Old Manor Hotel in Bilf Wells and the George Jarvis School in Staunton-on-Wye, just outside Hereford. The George Jarvis is 1850 something, I think, which was a boarding school. Big vast area. And then you've got the Old Manor Hotel. We don't actually know how far that dates back, because in the basement you go down, you can find the original footings and door frames for a house. So the hotel was built over the house, and there's been some very interesting paranormal activity in the basement there, which is where the original house was. And we had someone walk through and they found markings above an original doorway, which apparently would have ward off witches.
How many paranormal companies come to the nunnery and hire it out?
One. We only let haunted happenings in.
Did you have a job prior to becoming a historian and tour guide?
I did. I worked for the local authority, Ribble Valley Borough Council. It was a job I wasn't very, very happy in, but it was a job. I had a mortgage, I had 3 children to look after. I did the job, but I did feel that the Borough Council could have done a lot more tourism-wise. So when I paid my mortgage off, I thought I'm going to take the leap of faith here and go up there and start my own business, which I have done. And it has gone from strength to strength. We're now going to make our way into what we call Pendlewich country, and very, very soon you will see the world famous Pendle Hill. But let's start from the very, very beginning. We are going to turn the clock back in time to the year 1603, and at that period of time we have this absolutely magnificent queen on the throne of England, the fabulous Queen Elizabeth I. Now, many historians believe that she was probably our finest ever monarch. Now, she led from the very, very front. She was always looking over her shoulder because she had many enemies within her court. And when you think her own father had her own mother Anne Boleyn actually executed, this young woman, Queen Elizabeth, had a lot on her plate. She defeated the Spanish Armada 1588 from the very, very front, and many historians believe she was our best ever monarch. She had indeed had her own cousin, Mary Queen of Scots, executed because she was a Catholic and the Queen was a Protestant. And she insisted on her deathbed that Mary Queen of Scots' son, King James VI of Scotland, should become King James I of England. Now, King James, of course, was also a Protestant, and he hated the Catholics with a vengeance. He not only believed that witchcraft was involved with Catholicism, but Catholicism was indeed witchcraft. Now, the king, as I mentioned before, hated the Catholics, and this part of Lancashire, East Lancs, has always been predominantly Catholic. In fact, the town of Preston is short for Priest Town. The Townley family, Burnley, Catholic landowners. The Southwards of Salisbury, Preston, Catholic landowners. The Singletons of Goosner, Catholic landowners. The Shireburn family, Ribble Valley, Catholics. So the king had a suspicion on the area and gave orders to every single magistrate to watch out for Catholic gatherings. Now, caught up in all this paranoia were a group of people that were going to go down in history as the Pendle Witches. In the case of Demdike, she lived in a small cottage which has now gone, apart from the foundations, called Malkin Tower. Now, she'd lost her husband. She believed her husband had been murdered by Chattocks, but she had a daughter called Elizabeth Device, and she had 3 children, James, Alison, Jeanette Device, and they all lived together at Malkin Tower. The Pendwick story has a special place in my heart, Vicky, actually. My grandmother was a nutter, which is a rather famous name related to the Pendwick story. And as a little boy, she used to tell me about how she was directly related to Alice Nutter, the famous Pendle Witch. And I found it quite fascinating. She used to tell me about Demdike and Chattocks and the Device family. And I always found it quite fascinating. And living in Clitheroe, I see Pendle Hill every single day. And I felt I'd like to put my life and soul into promoting the Pendle Witch story, which I have done, of course, and through organisations like Haunted Happenings, I've done a lot of tours. Newchurch in Pendle was the home of Anne Whittle and her daughter Anne Redfern. According to Thomas Potts's book, The Wonderful Discovery of Witches in Lancashire, Anne Whittle was the most dangerous of all these so-called witches. She was responsible for the murder by witchcraft of John Device, Hugh and Anne Moore, and Anne and Robert Nutter. Here in the village of Newchurch, it's said that she made her way to the nearby quarry, and she saw a little boy with a grey coat on standing in the quarry, who then materialised into a dog, and the dog talked to her, and the dog said, "My name is Fancy. I can give you any wish you want, but in return I need to suckle from your flesh and take your soul." Demdike and Chattocks actually did admit to extracting teeth from corpses and placing them in the actual clay pitchers. Now, the only thing surviving from the 1612 story is the church, but not the entrance here and not the tower. The tower was built way back in 1635 and the entrance around 1835. But what I find amazing about this side of the church, what I find really intriguing, is the doorway there that's been filled in. Because all of our defendants would have walked through that door, all of the victims would have walked through that door. And to think that it's still with us this very, very day. It was bricked up in the 1840s, but it's still there for us to visit to this very, very day. The grave behind you is what they call the witch's grave. Now, in there, according to legend, and I must stress it is legend, is the body of Alice Nutter. I personally don't believe that, because I feel a convicted witch would never be buried in consecrated ground. And even in the 21st century, Alice Nutter is still classed as a condemned witch by British law.